think for every business, and you probably saw it with your own podcast, goals evolve. The picture we paint to ourselves in the beginning is not always where we're going to land. But it's very important to have that vision. And after work with over 1,000 executives at INSEAD, I realized that there were some patterns that emerged. And I realized that those patterns were no longer my intuition. They were a method. They were a repeatable system that defined what kind of businesses could be resilient and succeed and which businesses would fail.
Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girlz podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Loehding, and wherever you are tuning in today, we are so glad to have you. All right, so I'm going to open up with this today about my guest. She grew up in the Soviet Union, began her career in Paris, and followed a path that looked like success from the outside until life took her to Bali, where everything shifted. It was there that she realized she didn't want to keep building businesses for others. She wanted to build something of her own. That decision led her to co-found a global SaaS company that has been profitable since day one and is still thriving 15 years later. Along the way, she learned what most entrepreneurs never do: how to build a business that can withstand uncertainty, disruption, and growth without burning out or betting everything. And so I've gotten to chat with her for a little bit. I'm so excited to chat with her today. And you guys got to, find out where she's where you're going to wait till you find out where she's calling in from today. So that's going to be fun. But before I do bring her on, I do want to do a quick shout out to our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine.
And with that, I do want to make a mention to head on over to startergirlz.com. I say this every single week. And why? Because one, it's a great place to catch up on any episodes that you have missed. You can also sign up for our community newsletter, stay in the know of what's coming up and going out. And then, of course, if you are an aspiring entrepreneur, or maybe you're, right in the thick of it, and you want to find out what your number one success block is that may be hindering your success right now, I do have a 2-minute quiz over there that you can take. It's kind of fun. And it will tell you what may be keeping you from moving to that next step. And so head on over to startergirlz.com. And as I always say, do your thing. All right. So let's get our guest on the show. So much fun today. Okay. So today I am joined by Ksenia Votinova-Arnaud. I love her name, and I'm going to let her. She's going to have so much fun chatting with her today. She's a serial tech entrepreneur, co-founder of Lee VPN, and business coach at INSEAD. Ksenia has over 20 years of experience in tech and has coached more than 1,100 executives from leading global companies on building profitable, resilient business strategies. Strategies. She is the creator of the Weatherproof Business Formula, a system designed to help founders build technology-enabled businesses that remain stable and profitable over time. Her work focuses on helping women in tech turn ideas into validated businesses without leaving their corporate careers. And so, Ksenia, welcome to the show. I am so excited to chat with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited as well.
It's going to be fun. Okay, so tell our listeners, because I did tell them where you were calling in. So tell us where you are calling in from today so they know how special this episode is.
Well, I'm calling in from Paris, France. And today it's no longer snowing here, though last week Paris was covered in snow probably for the first time in a decade.
Really? Oh my goodness.
And everything shut
Wow.
down.
Wow. How much snow did you guys get?
Probably a few inches only.
Enough,
but it was
enough
enough
that you
for
don't
things
get
to
it,
stop.
right?
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Well, how beautiful. I think I shared with you, my daughter got to go to Paris, I guess not the last year, but the year before when she did a European excursion up there. And she had so much fun in the city. And yeah, it's there. Paris and Germany are on my bucket list of travel destinations, and mostly because my family is both German and French. So they are both on my places wanting to visit. And so, yay, how fun. Which is going
Yeah.
to lead me to the first part of what we're going to talk about today, because I want you to start from the beginning and walk us through your journey, basically from your early career to what ultimately led you to building your own company. Can you take us back there?
Yes, of course. Well, as I always say, Paris is always a good idea. So you should absolutely come.
Thank you.
And I arrived here more than 20 years ago to do my master's degree in business. And then I landed my first job in fintech, which we call today. It used to be called just a small business doing software. And working there for 5 years, I learned a lot and I was progressing very fast in my career because the company was so small, just about 20 people. And then I realized that I want to have an MBA degree, and that's how I ended up doing it at INSEAD, which is based in France and in Singapore, and one of the top business schools. And that was an exciting opportunity for me that opened a lot of doors because I could basically pick any job that I wanted to. So the next job that I got right after my MBA was running a luxury estate business in Bali. And it was really a dream job because I was given a carte blanche, like anything you want to do with your business, you can. Because I was coming from this strong business background and the business owner had this luxury hospitality background. So she was really responsible for those 20 villas that we were running to have that 5-star service. So I came in, I was really excited about my job, and I was working really, really long hours until the point when the business owner, who was actually German by origin, just like you, German American, um, came to me and said, "You know what? I'm ready to move to California to join my family. You are doing such a good job running this business. How about you stay and you run this business for me?" And I accepted the deal because I had no other choice because she already made her suitcases. Um, and then at some point, I realized that I was working really, really, really hard. And that while most of my friends in Bali were enjoying sunsets and going out and surfing in the mornings, I was just so serious about building that business and doubling and tripling their profits that I found myself doing 15-hour days in Bali, which was absolutely crazy. And then I thought, the business owner, she's just calling in 2 times a week for 1-hour meetings. And that's all she does. And she gets all the profits. And I'm over here doing crazy hours, increasing the value of this business because of all the work that I brought in on the business side, and she's getting all the profits.
Right.
Why do I do this for her and don't do it for myself? I could just start exactly the same business if I wanted to. The thing is, I'm not really interested in luxury real estate. Like, I'm interested in tech and other things. So I should just go after my passion, the things I'm interested in, because I already have enough experience and knowledge to start something of my own. So that's how I started my own business. The co-founder of my very first tech company, LiveVPN, found me when I was in Bali, pitched his idea to me, and we decided to team up. He brought in the tech skills, and I brought in the business background, and just took this business global.
Wow. It's so interesting to me that, when I talk about these stories all the time, how they sort of unfold, and here you were working and took your business and then went into hospitality. And then in the middle of that, had this sort of like light bulb moment, right? Which is, I think, what happens to a lot of entrepreneurs. They're like, hey, I'm working for somebody else and I could be doing this for myself, right? And then here you go back into finding where your passion is and align that up with the skill set. that you developed as a leader and an entrepreneur, and were able to launch this tech company. So what a fun story. I always love these non-linear stories, that they're never just straight, like I come out of school, this is what I do, and this is what happens. It's never that way, it's always a round, I don't know, I guess it's like a journey, an unwinding or going is all over the place kind of journey, right?
Yeah, and it kind of all makes sense at the end,
Yeah.
but you don't see it in the moment.
Right.
You can only see it looking back at the past.
Yeah.
That's when you connect the dots.
Yeah, you're right. You're so right. I think everything is like that, and you do. But I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about this, how that if in each thing you do, if you find the lesson, the message, the takeaway, whatever you were supposed to gain in that experience. And the story that I was using on that, I can't remember which episode I was recording, but I was telling the story about how in many of the things that I have done in the interim, there are a few things I've done for a very long time. I was in Mary Kay for a very long time, and I've done my podcast for a while. Those are the two things that I've done for a while. But in that journey with that, I had partnered up with this firm for a really short period of time, and it ended up not working out that I was going to stay there. And it was mostly mutually both, because I couldn't work with them. I didn't like the way they were running things, and they kept changing the goalposts. And I'm not a change a goalpost kind of person. I'm like, you tell me what you're going to do, and I expect you to do it. And so, anyways, long story short, it didn't work out. But when I came out of that situation, I was kind of bitter in the beginning about it, because I had felt like I had given things up to do this, and then I'd wasted my time doing this. And then my husband reminded me that in the middle of that, part of this was I had gotten my hands on a lot of literature. And when I say literature, books basically, but they were certain books like Spin Selling, which is a great selling book, Five Dysfunctions of a Team, which is a really good a book about team. But it was all these great reads that I don't, maybe they would have crossed my path at some point, but they came in at that time, and they were immensely instrumental in a growth period that I needed to have that material come in. So he reminded me, and I'm like, yeah, I thought that was a really good lesson, because even though that whole series didn't work out, it brought me to some knowledge and some things that I may have never come across had I not walked through that valley. So yeah, it's really about finding those pieces, and connecting them, finding where they connect.
Yeah.
So good stuff. I love it. So as you're moving through the journey, I'd love to know this. How did your definition of success evolve? And what does that mean to you today? Like, what does success look like to you?
Very good question. Um, because, well, I started this tech business, VPF, which just turned 15 years old. And my definition of success evolved in 15 years.
Yeah.
When we just started out, all we wanted was freedom of location, to be able to work from anywhere we wanted. And in the early years, we traveled through Asia. I did yoga retreats in Thailand and in Bali, and then I went to Argentina to learn to dance tango, and working in my business at the same time, because our whole team was completely like digital nomads. Like, they were all virtual. They had no office space. And then there was also this notion of time freedom. You can work as many hours as you want, as long as you're creating value and doing the job. And you can work 80 hours if you want. You can work during the nighttime if you want to. And that really served me in Buenos Aires, when I was dancing tango at night, and I would sleep in the mornings, and then my work day would start somewhere in the afternoon. And even for people we managed in our team, we said, we don't care what your hours are. All we care for are the specific tasks that you're supposed to complete for our business to run. And that was our definition of success in the beginning. Like, we were making enough money to support our lifestyle, and we had location freedom and time freedom, and no boss.
Yeah.
But then eventually it evolved. Like, we wanted to scale the business, and we started partners reaching out to us for partnerships and getting some more serious contracts and people we were accountable to as business partners. So I was learning a lot about how to structure the team, how to automate things. And then eventually everything, what it came up to is how to create a business which leverages technology so that you have a big part of it, which is either automated or nowadays uses artificial intelligence to help you run the tasks behind the scene so that, of course, you still need people in your team, but then people are doing the tasks that really create value. They don't do anything routine or mechanical. Like they don't need to do that anymore because you have technology for that,
Mm-hmm.
but they oversee the machines. And that type of tech enabled business also allows you to have time freedom and location freedom
Right.
and eventually financial freedom because you're just optimizing your costs so much that your
Yeah.
profit margins are crazy.
Right.
Um, and that's what the definition of success became to me today. And I also strongly believe, and people I work with, I teach them to start businesses that leverage technology on one side. And secondly, they don't require raising any funds.
Mm.
Because if you know how to build a business the smart way, you don't need to raise funds. You don't need to run after investor money to start your own business, especially today with artificial intelligence and all these no code tools where that's basically AI doing all the coding for you, all the
Yeah.
software development. Like you
Right.
just click and build anything you want.
Right.
So you don't. Sometimes I speak to potential clients and they say, "Well, I have this business idea, but where do I even start? I need to raise so much money. I have to leave my job." And I would be like, "Why would you do that? First of all, you don't need to leave your job. You can start building something in parallel. And secondly, what do you need the money for?"
Yeah. This is so interesting that you say this. And I want to touch upon this AI thing because I just had this. I told my husband the other day, I said, because you have so many people, I don't say so many. There are a lot of people that are resistant to AI. Like they are, I think they just don't know enough about it that they fear it, right? I use AI every single day of my life. I mean, and I'm talking from everything to comparing cat food prices on Amazon to building out sales proposals for clients. I mean, today, just case in point for my audience and for you, Ksenia, notes for your episode today. I take all the information that you guys put in the pod match and I put that into the AI and I have it help me craft notes and questions and things that I want to pull. Because, yeah, sure, I could sit here and do that stuff, but why would I when it takes me 5 minutes to do that? Right. So you are absolutely right when we talk about how to, I guess the word we're here saying delegate, right? Learn to delegate and automate,
Yeah.
whatever you could do. So good for you on that because I don't even know at this point, like, my life would be greatly impaired if I could not use AI. You know what I mean? I love it.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you a question because we were kind of moving into this was going to be my next question about this funding thing because, building, WeVPN without obviously outside funding, you did this and you kept the business profitable. I'd love to know what this taught you about like resilience in the bit in business and life, like resilience, grit. What did this teach you?
Yeah. I guess that comes maybe from a cultural environment. Learning, growing up in the Soviet Union when you didn't really have access to funds, and you always
Okay.
had to think, like, if you want to start a business. I know my parents were entrepreneurs, and they always had this question, like, how can we make this business profitable from day one? And profitable is always about the revenues versus the cost
Right.
structure.
Right.
So for me, when we started our tech business, it was all about starting very lean, meaning we the very first product that we shipped was almost free. Okay, my co-founder is a tech person, but what he did, he took this software, which is open source, meaning it's available to anyone.
Okay.
There's like the websites where there's databases of software of code that you just take and you customize a little bit. So it was already software free to everyone that we customized, basically put our logo on, connected some parts of our service to it. And that's what we were selling to our first customers. And we took just one country, which was France, in one language, which was French, and just used one small social media channel to offer it in order to test our idea. And when we knew that there is demand, we started scaling. And I think we even started building our own products somewhere close to year 10. We were using open source software like for the first decade of our business.
Wow.
And because it was good enough, we could
Right.
add more features, we could make it look like it was our own, but it was not.
Right.
And it was a good product that was solving a problem for our users. And that's how our business was profitable, and we just could keep growing organically.
Yeah. No, I
And
love this.
that,
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, and to me, that's the whole principle of starting businesses that are resilient. They can only be resilient if you can see a way how they can make profits and you have market proof that you're actually solving a problem that people are willing to pay for. The problem with the startups of today who are going to raise funds is that very often they don't really validate the problem. Like we've partnered with many startups, well, not many, quite a few. And one of the examples is a startup who raised more than $3 million for their first beta product, which they shipped, but then they used all the money that they raised on marketing and PR. They got the best PR firms in California.
Yeah.
They went to all the tech conferences that could talk about them, basically, of course, sponsored booths and everything. And then they just ran out of funds. A year later, $3 million later, they did not exist anymore. And it was such a pity.
Yeah.
And I just see it all the time, and it's just so frustrating to me because this money, these funds, they could be used for society to
Right.
create something good, which is solves actual problems for people that people really need,
Yeah.
instead of just, putting it in social media
Right.
and tech magazines and conferences to talk about the idea that nobody wants.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I think, and this is, you're probably finding this as you're working with people. And I say this because last year I worked with a mentor when I was trying to, I think I shared with you, I was trying to build out a course and I was trying to get like my unique selling proposition, like what was I actually trying to solve? But interestingly enough, it's funny because just last week I was going through, I was trying to look at Starter Girlz, and I had kind of over the last few weeks sort of come to this like, I don't know what you call it, like just this moment where I stopped for a minute and I'm like, what am I doing with this show? Like, what is the point of this show? Right. And it was because what was going on is like I had a great person helping me with like our titles and our thumbnails. But what I found is that we were not clear on what the target. And I say this because I had somebody message me one day and she's like, your show is great, but it's like all over the place. And I'm like, no, it's not. There's a purpose and a passion and a mission there here. But I wasn't clear because my titles were going from solving a problem to an individual. So one week we were talking about you, the entrepreneur. And then the next week we were talking about how to sell something, which was confusing because it's like, what are we doing here? Are we talking about things where problems we're solving? So I had to tell my guy, I said, no, this show, and now that the audience is going to hear this right now, what this show is about you, the individual on the show. It's about you, your journey, what you've learned, what you're doing, and how you can help someone. And I was conveying this when I would go in, to all you guys, y'all come on, we do the intro calls. I'm telling you this. And so my point, the reason I'm saying this is because when that person said that to me, that your show is all over the place, it made me stop and think, what is the problem? Like, what am I trying to solve? What is my audience here for? What do they want to hear from me? And what are we trying to do? And what we're trying to do is I'm actually at the end of it, I'm trying to show everybody that there are cool people contributing to the world and making a difference. That's what I'm really trying to do here. And I do that through the stories, right? But my point to this is when you talk about these solving the problems and go back to what you're saying, solving the problem and then the money gets wasted, that's exactly what it is. I think a lot of times people have an idea, a concept, a vision, right? But they don't really know. They like their idea. They like it. They like their idea, but they
Yeah.
don't really know what the problem is they're solving or how to convey the problem that they're selling, right? And so I say all that when I worked with that mentor last summer, it was to help me get through this course, and that's what I was trying to figure out is what was that course actually solving? Who was the audience? What was the problem? Because they don't care how you do it. They just want to know you're
Yeah.
going to solve the problem, right? Our job is to make the tool that does it, but they don't care about all that. So I agree with you on that. And I do think, as a business owner, I have worked with teams. We do a lot of times waste a lot of money in the wrong areas because we think if we have the next hack, the next widget, the next marketing strategy, the next coach, the next this, when really we just need to get to the basics and lean it down and just get clear on what we're doing, who we're selling to, what we're selling, what the problem is. And so I just wanted to say all that to say I totally get it. I get what you're saying when you
Yeah.
say that. So
And that's so common. I mean, I see it all the time. I work with more than 1,000 executives for INSEAD Business School at this stage.
yeah.
And I always hear the same thing like, oh, but what I'm creating would create value for everyone.
Right.
And people just don't want to niche down to one single customer persona or like this first user that would be really, really specific. They
Yeah.
want to go very broad, but then by speaking to everyone, you end up speaking to no
To no
one,
one.
and then that's
Yep.
how the message gets diluted, and yeah, and you end up not making any money. So
Every
that's
suc
something, yeah, that's something like a very big part of what I do is basically making people realize that.
Yeah, I was gonna say every successful business owner that has created something says the same thing you say, that you've really got to get down to who that first user is. I think too, Senya, talk about it from a credibility standpoint, right? Think about it from that. If you're speaking, because we want to speak to everybody because we think our idea is going to help everybody, right? Like, and a lot of times it can help a lot of people, right? But the problem is we got to get somewhere. We got to get with a group. We got to get somebody to build a community around, somebody that's going to follow that, want that. And you've got those early adopter people, right? Like those people in the
Yeah,
beginning. And so, yes, and I think that is a hard thing to get to that place where we go, I'm going to hone in on those people and and be okay with that, right? Like be okay with that because you're right. If you're trying to do everybody, then you end up with just looking really like you don't know what you're talking about and like you're all over the place and and you want that reputation and credibility, right?
exactly. You want to be the expert in your field, and that's why people come to you. Well, if we're talking about a coach or consultant, right?
Yeah.
And when you're from a business perspective, if I look back at what we did for the VPN, we went for a very specific client group at that time. Um, we only went after people who knew exactly what a VPN is. And to be honest, when I started that business, I had no idea what that was myself.
Yeah.
But there were tech enthusiasts out there who knew exactly what it was, and they were looking for a solution. And that was the easiest segment for us to convert. And we went after it. And we didn't go too broad until we could start scaling to other segments.
Right. Till you built one and then you could move to the next stage. Smart
Yes.
move. I love that you did this lean because and I think it's great even you mentioned that because I think I shared with you I do have a client that I've been working with, oh my gosh, since 2020. I think I met her right when COVID started and she's originally from Russia. She's now living in Spain, but she has been a very strategic I'm she's so young and I'm so impressed by her work ethic, her strategic mindset, her just everything she does is very lean and there's just not I crack up at her all the time because, I don't coach a lot of people really anymore, but she's still I feel like we've just been talking for so long that she'll go on these, like she's leaving, I think this week to go on a retreat in India. She does those two, goes on these excursions, but we've been talking for so long and it's so funny. Every time she shows up, we never even have to have a very long call because she'll get on and she's like, this is what happened this week. I didn't do this. I just didn't do it. I know what I need to do. It's like we're just checking in. And so I've just been very impressed by her work ethic and yeah, and I think she shares some of the things like you've said just about her mindset about business and how she does her, started things and how she carries it out even now. So she has a Airbnb in Spain that she rents out now too. And she's only, I think she's 29. She's really young. So, kind of cool. I love it. So I want to move into talking a little bit about what you mentioned, kind of touch back on this coaching after coaching, over 1,000 people. What patterns do you see between the way people define success and how their businesses actually land? Like what makes these actually successful?
Good question. I think for every business, and you probably saw it with your own podcast, goals evolve.
Yeah.
The picture we paint to ourselves in the beginning is not always where we're going to land,
Right.
but it's very important to have that vision. And after work with over 1,000 executives at INSEAD, I realized that there were some patterns that emerged. And I realized that those patterns were no longer my intuition, they were a method. They were a repeatable system that defined what kind of businesses could be resilient and succeed and which businesses would fail. And that pattern for me was the whole framework that I've developed, the Weatherproof Business Formula. That is 4 steps. The first one is the why. How clear the founders are on the mission and the vision and where they're going, like why they're starting this business. Because some people are starting a business for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Either they want to get away from their corporate job or they want to earn the next number of money. But the thing is, starting a business is not easy.
Right.
And it takes probably about 5 years to get to a good space where you can start seeing traction. And in those 5 years, there's going to be lots of up and down moments, and especially lots of down moments. And if you don't have that core motivation inside yourself that makes you go through that moment and don't lose the belief in what you're doing, that's how you can keep going. And that's why like there's so many businesses that go out of business in the first 5 years. Like statistics, I think, are something like 90%
Yeah.
in the US. That's because people give up, and they give up because they don't have that core, they don't have that why. The second thing is something we touched upon just early. It's defining the right who. So the right customer segment that you can go after, which really needs that problem to be solved. It's the definition of the hungry market. They really want to pay for it. And also at the same time, they're easy for you to reach. Like if it's a market that for which like you're starting out, you have no network, you have no people to sell to because they're just so far from what you've been doing yourself. This is so hard. I
Right.
tell my clients, like, why would you do that to yourself?
Right.
Like find a segment to which you already have access. You can get recommendations, you know them, they're part of your network, friends and family. This is where you start. So finding this right who. And then you get into the third element, which is the what. And the what is basically your offer or your first prototype. And we talked about it as well. Like it needs to be really lean. There's so many ways how to build it cheaply, and also how to build it fast. So that like if you cannot build and ship it in a week, you're overcomplicating things.
That's good.
And
Yeah.
what my clients do, and so inside my signature coaching program, they go through 8 weeks of building from just an idea to the first prototype with a wait list of beta users of their first clients. And most of the people get to like at least 15 people on their waiting list
Okay.
before they even build anything.
Yeah.
And the reason they can do that is because they can ship something very fast, even if it's just a landing page describing the offer or just like a video of themselves on Instagram, telling what it is, just 3 minutes. That's good enough to get some demand from people to validate whether that's actually needed before some other people I interacted with like can invest tens of thousands of dollars building a prototype talking to one person, which is
Right.
themselves.
Yeah.
And then the last one is the how. The fourth step is obviously how do you make a profitable business out of it? How do you create this perfect combination of revenue versus costs so that you can grow organically and scale it? And that last part, the how, difficult, important, but this is just details. Like there's so many ways. Once you figure out the first three parts, the rest is just mechanics.
Yeah.
Just doing the right business practices just to get there.
Right. And I think maybe you find this that a lot of people want to jump to the four without figuring the other pieces out. They just want to dive
Exactly.
in and go, right? Because as
Exactly.
entrepreneurs, I mean, I'm laughing, I'm kind of snickering about this because I've done this. I've done this. I don't know if you're like, it seems like you're very methodical and I love it because my husband's like that. He's very methodical. I plan things out, but I'm always a dive in and then I figure it out as I go. And so I have done this cycle in reverse order probably a lot of times, and I'm learning now to be much more. I mean, I think there is a time to make a decision to go in, but I am learning to be much more methodical about this process because I agree with you. If you don't, this is basic in anything you do. If you don't get grounded in why you're doing something, that's the big thing. If you're not grounded in that, you're not going to weather through. You're not going to make it. The minute a customer denies your offer or you get a nasty rejection or you don't sell as much as you want that particular month, whatever it is, you're going to fall through the cracks. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I love that you've got, you're laying it out here. You've got, okay, we're figuring out the problem, and getting your offer, your unique selling proposition, and then here's the details. So I love it. I think it's
Yeah.
great. And it's simple.
Thank
It's
you.
4 steps. 4
Four
steps.
steps. Exactly.
I have a
And
4th step.
sometimes like clients come to me inside the program and say, you know what, I'm going to change my business idea because I don't know, it was too hard or I got that feedback or something. And it's like, okay, let's go back to the first step, to your why. Because those who are not changing their business ideas, they are on the opposite saying, okay, I got that feedback, which was negative, but that's not going to stop me. I'm
Right.
just going to figure out the way how to address that and make my product even stronger. Because the first step, the why, was so strong.
Yeah. No, and it has to. And I've had that happen too with clients where like we're going through like the coaching and then midway through they're sort of like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And I've had to have that conversation, like, okay, well, let's back up and figure out why were we doing this to begin with? Because sometimes your priorities change. So sometimes that is going to happen. Like
Mm.
you mentioned early on about success, and you were talking about in the beginning how it became about just having the freedom. And then it became later about having the freedom, but growing the business and being more effective and scaling and all of those things. So I think, yeah, sometimes I could see even too, if somebody goes through this and they're like, maybe I wasn't doing the business that I really wanted to be doing, but I was doing because I thought this would be cool and I don't really like this. And I
Yeah.
say that even because my stuff, like I've done this cycle, I feel like many times, and I have kind of evolved, and I mean, when I initially started doing what I was doing, I wanted to coach and be a speaker. And then I realized, I don't really care so much about speaking on a stage. I get to talk. This is my stage, right? I enjoy podcasting, and I don't care so much about the coaching side of things. I love doing presentations. I have no problem with that, but I don't care as much at the coaching side. I like building. So yeah, I think you can, but I agree with you. You've got to get grounded in that why you're doing what you're doing. And I will tell you, in all the years I was in Mary Kay, that was the thing we always led with is why you were doing what you're doing. What's your why?
Yeah.
And even when I would tell my story, when I would get up and, and I would be like, okay, I always led with this is why I do this, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. So good stuff. And I love it's a 4 step. And the reason I say that, because I also have a 4 step system that I do for when I'm working with, I built a program around it, but I have and different than yours. It's not on tech or anything like that. It's more of a how to make things stick, how to create change and actually make it stick. But I created a 4 step system that I condensed everything I learned and put it down into that. So now, kind of like you, I can say, okay, you just got to figure a couple things out in the beginning. The rest is just the how to's. It's your
Yeah.
step 4, you know?
Mm.
So anyways, and I think simplicity is what we need, right?
Yeah. Especially now.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's attention spans.
Right, exactly. Okay, so for someone listening who has an idea but feels uncertain or afraid of risking what they've already built, how would you help them move forward? We talked about the why. Is there anything else you would say to them to kind of push them to keep going?
I would say think about it that you don't have to burn all the bridges. If you're
Mm,
already in a corporate job, you don't have to leave it until you have the validation that your business can start bringing in revenues that are sufficient for you to finance your lifestyle. And when you have a streamlined system where you know the exact steps that you need to be focusing on each week, the work required to build that business could be something from 5 to 10 hours a week. So that's something that you can do in the evenings or in the weekend. And a lot of successful entrepreneurs I work with, that's what they do. They're building in parallel. So don't no longer think about it as like either one or the other. It can be both in the beginning. If your goal is to leave your corporate job and eventually to be a full-time entrepreneur, that is possible. But don't put all the eggs in the same basket, as we say. Weight your risks, and this is how you can get started. And obviously, if you want to know more of what those streamlined steps are and what are the different things that could help you move forward, I have a lot of free resources on my website as well, including a scorecard that evaluates where you're at with your business idea in this specific moment based on my signature method, the Weatherproof Business Formula I just talked about, and sends you a PDF of the exact action plan for the next 3 months that you should be focusing on to move this forward.
love it. And I'm going to ask you for that website in just a minute, but I did want to ask you kind of a personal question. I want to say this for the audience because you're a mom. And
Yes.
you started, this journey. You weren't a mom in the very beginning, right? So you've kind of done like I've done, where you have done things on this side and on this side as a mom. And so I want to commend you on that. And then I want to ask you a question. What do you feel like you've learned about yourself as this, this female entrepreneur, mom, building out this business? You've obviously been successful, and you're helping other people hopefully create that success like you. So share with us what you've learned about yourself in this journey.
I think what I've learned that something you mentioned earlier, I also get excited about the how. And the perfectionist part of me wants to do so many things and
Right.
do them perfectly.
Yeah.
And being a mom, I realized that I cannot do that. So a part of the coaching that I do today integrates the fact that I want you to build a successful business, but I don't want you to burn out.
Right.
So how about we find a system which is so lean that we only take the steps, the 20% of steps that are going to create the 80% of impact. We forget all the details. We forget the perfectionism. We don't go there anymore. We just want to build the core that works so that the rest of the time you can still enjoy your life, enjoy your family. And that's been a big revelation for me, what I've been learning about myself. And that's what I'm prioritizing this year as well. I have my whole action plan of how do I relax, basically.
As a fellow perfectionist friend, I totally hear you, girlfriend. It's so funny because you're gonna love this. I think I shared, maybe I did or didn't, but I hate social media. Like, I just hate it. And I'll tell you why. Because I can't just like throw something out there. I can't just get on the camera and just throw something out there. That's why I love podcasts, because I can kind of structure it. And I'm going to be honest, not that I go back and do a lot of edits after we pretty much roll the shows, unless there's a technical glitch. We just put intros and outros on, but there's some kind of control in that at least I can go back at the end if I had to. And with social media, I feel like, one, I have to think too much about what to put out. And so I have people help me with it, because I just cannot just be free with it. And so my goal, it's funny because one of my things this year is to try to let go of the need to have everything always be like, I have to have it, this way, this way, this way, this way. And oddly enough, that program, you probably at the very beginning when I was mentioning about that thing on Starter Girlz, one of the success blocks is perfectionism. Right. And so
Right.
as I was actually building that out, that's when I became increasingly aware how much the perfectionism it will rule my life because I don't like putting out, to me, sloppiness is just not cool. I had to get one of my co-hosts that was on. I could always laugh because she would get on MailChimp and write our newsletters, and she would just get on there and start and put them out. And I'm like, it takes me days to create the newsletter to get it done because I'm going, I don't like where this is at, and I don't like the font, and I don't like the site. I just freedom. I'm with you
Yeah.
on it, on that perfectionism.
Yeah.
So, Ksenia, if our audience wants to get in touch with you, first of all, I want to say you are an amazing woman. This interview was fabulous. I'm so glad that I guided these questions today because I feel like you got to just really shine some light on what you're doing really well at. And so I'm glad that we structured this like this because you did really well. And I want to thank you for, like all your knowledge nuggets, your wisdom, all of that stuff. And I'm sure somebody listening to this right now is probably in that stuck phase, or maybe they're almost on the other side, or maybe they just got the idea, but they want to get in touch with you. Where do we want to send them?
Absolutely. Well, they can go to my website, KseniaVotinova.com, or find me on LinkedIn, Ksenia Votinova-Arnaud.
Okay.
And, my mission is in the next 3 years to be able to help 10,000 women get started on launching a business of their own.
Yeah.
And last year, and doing that mostly through my free masterclasses and free resources, right? And last year alone, there were over 1,000 women who went through my masterclasses.
Wow.
So I want to keep growing this this impact
Yeah.
because I think it's very important. Like, I want every woman and every girl to have a choice, whether they go through a corporate path or they go through a path of entrepreneurship and building something of their own and using technology to do that, because I don't
Mhm.
want them to do all the work by themselves. I
Yeah.
want them to use the systems and technology in a smart way.
Well, and you're a shining example of having done both, both corporate success and entrepreneur success, and doing it in a way that's sustainable and works for you. So congratulations on that. We'll make sure to, when we get the show notes, that we get your website in there, since I know that you have a beautiful name that is difficult like to spell, like my last name. And so I totally
Okay.
get it. We will make sure in the notes that we have the website in there, so that, and on the screen, my editor usually will scroll it on the screen for the viewers as well. So we'll get it in there. So thank you for your time. Like I said, I know you're calling in from around the world in beautiful Paris, so we appreciate you. I know this is around the time your kiddos are going to be walking in the door. So thank you for making time for our show and our audience and for our listeners, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I love this conversation. And yes, hope it will create value for people who need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, to our listeners, we appreciate you, love you. We hope that you found this episode both informative and inspiring. And of course, if you did, you know what to do. All the things: like, subscribe, share, and comment, so that we can keep sharing all of this fabulous content with you. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.